right, let's bring in our next guest, Mandy Xu, who is a chief equity derivative strategist at Credit Suisse. Mandy, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Great to be here.
What do you've heard what we've just been talking about. React. Discuss, as we saw on the tests in college. Discuss.
For sure. So I would absolutely agree that on the national level, economic data in the U.S. has absolutely been great, whether you look at payrolls, GDP, et cetera. But I think the national data masks a huge regional disparity. And I thought actually on the topic of trade, the most interesting study that came out recently was a Federal Reserve report showing going into next year, 7 states are forecast to go into a contraction. Right? Despite the great national data, 7 states forecast to go into contraction. What are those 7 states? Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Sound familiar, right? I think going into a 2020 election, these are the states that Trump carried in 2016. He's facing pressure, right? What he's done with the trade war is create a manufacturing slowdown that has disproportionately hurt the Rust Belt. And I think that's why right now, actually, he's feeling the pressure to get something done on trade that maybe he wasn't feeling at the beginning of this year.
Very interesting. This has been a year of relative, to me at least, I don't know, you guys can disagree or whatever. This has not, to me, been a particularly volatile year.
Right.
Right?
Oh, especially following last year.
2018
yes,
was, and 2017 was not.
Yes.
And this year has gone back to a
historical average,
sort of quiescent phase. What do you think of 2020, and how do you play that? How do you trade that volatility? Sure.
So I think our view going forward is still constructive, despite markets at all-time highs. And I say we are constructive on 2 factors. So first, economic fundamentals, right? So the manufacturing slowdown that we mentioned before, our house views that it's going to bottom this month and pick up going to next year. That's going to be good for risk sentiment. That's going to be good for stocks. And the second reason I'm bullish or constructive at this moment is that despite markets being at record highs, investors haven't really participated in this rally. Positioning has been extremely defensive. We see it, for example, in the hedge fund data. Most hedge funds, recent month, they've covered their shorts. They haven't added to longs. Net exposure still very muted. On the option side, particularly, we're seeing very robust demand for downside hedges, almost to record levels throughout the curve. So whether you're looking at short-dated hedges or longer-dated hedges, everyone is focused on downside risk. And to us, that historically...
And so that gives you an opportunity to get in.
Exactly. So historically, when we've looked at it, when positioning has been this offsides in the options market, that's been a contrarian signal. Markets have tended to actually rally going forward when we see this much demand for downside risk. Seems a little counterintuitive, but I would say, when the risks are priced in, when everyone's focused on the downside, it's the upside that's the shock.
Mandy makes a great point. It's great to have her here. It's her first time here. Wonderful.
Welcome. We're glad to have you here.
She's effectively saying, with everybody focused on it going lower, the market can't. If everybody's waiting to buy the dip based on those hedges they've put on, it's counterintuitive, but it makes perfect sense that the market wants to go higher. I happen to agree with her. Listen, there's no denying that the market's only gone up now for the last 18 or so months. The quick pushback to you is you mentioned the effect that these tariffs have had on the economy. I'm not an economist, but I think the only thing that President Trump watches, in my opinion, is the stock market. And the stock market's at an all-time high. That's what he's laser focused on. So in my opinion, he feels like he has some chips he can play with in terms of what happens over the weekend.
And amidst all the trade tension, the market's up, 24% this year?
It's not so bad.
Not so bad. Is Guy the most welcoming person ever?
Yes, he's a big greeter, big hugger.
He brings everybody in.
I'm not a nice person. No. Can I tell you something? Don't confuse the issue. Mean as a snake.
Excuse me, folks. Yeah. All right, Mandy, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. Awesome.